What's up, Infected? It's Wolf with Quarantine, and this is going to be a little bit different of a review. Now, I got to play Empyreal Spells in Steam with the designers a couple times, and this is going to be kind of a first look review based on me playing with the designers. So before I get started, I just need to mention that everything you see here, of course, is a digital representation of everything on Tabletop Simulator. And, of course, some of the mechanics, some of the cards, some of the very minor rules, of course, may be subject to change because it is still on Kickstarter currently. Now, the overall goal of Empyreal Spells in Steam is basically to have the most victory points at the end of the game. And the way you're going to do that is a really interesting mechanic where you have your little train cars, basically. It's like your train yard. And you have a pawn. And you move the pawn in spaces along this like top bar. And then each space on the top of that bar has a column associated with it, which will have one or more trains in it that has the actual actions you can do. So on your turn, you're going to advance the marker up to one spot for free. You don't have to move. You can do an administrate action, which gives you another plethora of options you can do. But when you do move the pawn up, you're going to activate one of the trains in that column for free. However, you can spend mana to move further down the line, or you can activate multiple, or you can activate multiple trains. So you can spend mana to move forward more, and spend more mana to activate more trains now, or more of the actions on your board. Now, throughout the game, you're going to be adding actions to this throughout various actions, which I'll kind of touch on. But once you have done that, you're going to perform your actions that you choose. Now, most of those actions are, you're going to be putting trains out on the map adjacent to train or areas you already have a train on that matches the area on your action board. So your ultimate goal is to try to connect resources to their appropriate colored cities. Now, each resource, of course, has a color, and each city has a color as well. Once you reach the end of the track, and if I'm not mistaken, the designers called it a rondelle, which I've never heard it called that, but that doesn't, I don't know what it's actually called, but the designer called it a rondelle. But once you do that, you get to the very end of your rondelle, then you can deliver goods. So you could deliver one type of good to the city that matches that good's color, if that makes any sense. So for example, I can drop if I have 3 red tokens that are out on the board and I'm attached to the red city, I can, once I reach the end of my track, I can deliver all 3 of those. Now, when you do, you're going to get the highest level bonus. So first person who delivers 4 goods will get a couple extra points. First person who delivers 3 goods gets more points, so on and so forth. Down to 2. There's no benefit for just doing 1. But each good you deliver is also a victory point in and of itself. So you always want to try to deliver something. But then, once you've delivered, you get to take certain bonuses that can give you a special crew on your train, that gives you special powers that are once per game, once per round, once per activation, so on and so forth. Or you can, of course, regenerate mana, get more mana. There's a slew of different actions you can take. Now, if you don't want to move down your track instead, maybe you don't have the mana to do what you need, or maybe you're trying to buy yourself some time, or whatever your reasoning. The other action you can take is called Administrate. Now, with Administrating, you're automatically just going to regenerate your mana, but then you're going to flip over your crew. Some of your crew has to be exhausted, just like your main owner of the company, basically. Those all have to be exhausted when you use them. So when you administrate, you get them back. And then you also get additional bonuses, which are the same bonuses that when you deliver, you basically just have to choose. Do you want to get a new mana? Do you want to get some train cars? Do you want to get, whatever? So you can get those bonuses, and if you get train cars, for example, you have to fill the second row down first. Once you fill that, then you can move to the third row. But once you place those train cars, they're placed, and that's it. Now, once a player has delivered enough goods to get the special tokens to be able to get the extra bonus points. Depending on the number of players that you're playing with, once somebody has reached that final amount, whether it's 4, 5, 6, whatever, the game is going to be over. You're going to finish out the round, and then everybody gets to make one last delivery without using any of your special powers, and then at that point you're going to tally up victory points. Now, another cool thing that the game also has is similar to a lot of other games, actually, is an end game like bonus, basically, where these are all going to be different. Every time you play, you're going to shuffle all of them up, you're going to pull out 2, and they're going to be special benefits. So whoever, for example, whoever has the most shares the most spaces with other people gets some bonus points. Whoever delivered the most or has the most goods on, or delivered the most goods or trains or whatever on the edge of the map, stuff like that. They're just all kinds of special things that are going to, or well, not going to, but may affect kind of the way you play and how you do your strategy to get a good influx of points at the end of the game. Now, there's a few more rules that I haven't really touched on, but I'm not really going to cover it. As usual, this is a review. I'm not teaching you how to play the game. I do have a couple gameplay videos, if you are interested in learning how to play, give those a watch. You have to watch all of them. Within the first 5-10 minutes of each video, the designer actually goes over all of the rules. So if you want to learn more how to play, definitely check those videos out, or check their Kickstarter page. As of the time of recording this, it does have 4 days to go. I did mean to record this much sooner than I have, so I definitely apologize for that. I do hope to get this edited and uploaded tonight. So what do I think of the game? Well, it's no secret that I am a huge fan of level 99 games. I'm wanting to say there's one game that I don't particularly love. I still enjoy the game. I actually still own it, and that's Disc Duelers. Other than that, I think I've played every one of their games. I own every one of their games, and I absolutely adore every one of their games. I love the artwork. I love the mechanics. Their games generally just feel real tight and just really nice. Empyreal, Spells and Steam, is no different at all. The 2 games that I got to play of this, even with the clunkiness of Tabletop Simulator, which of course is gonna usually double how long the game is, just because of how clunky it is and everything's a little slower. The game still played within a reasonable amount of time. They're claiming it takes about 20 minutes per player, so that is totally reasonable. That alone is fantastic, and it reminds me of one of my favorite games, and that is Kingdom Builder. Kingdom Builder is an outstanding, light little game. There's no, of course, pickup and delivery in that game, but the mechanics of placing these trains out, because it's more like that than it is Ticket to Ride. You're not making these, you're not necessarily making rails and connecting 2 spots, because throughout the course of the game you might be able to skip spaces or jump over things because you're magical trains. You can teleport. The way it was explained to me is, think of it less as trains, as these are train depots, and they're like teleport areas or something along those lines, because it's in the world of Indines, it's magical. So there's no reason these trains actually have to be one solid, concise rail. And the theme of that actually comes out, and the different factions that you can play as mesh really well with that, and also bring out that theme. For example, the first game I ever played of this was the Gesselheim faction. They were the black color, and they're the ones who they're all about industry and, screw the environment, just all about industry, large factories. They're spewing gas. I actually related them to the slime or the smoke monster from Fern Gully, which is pretty accurate. They can just start causing corruption all over the board, blowing up other people's tiles, stealing tiles from them, stuff like that. And the different factions play very different, because the other faction that I played the second time, they were just super quick. They were fast at everything. They can do everything for a lot cheaper. They can get to the end of their rondelle within a turn or 2 versus having to go slow. So you could just start sucking up all the goods from everybody before they have a chance to get them, which is really cool. And then the other factions, I didn't get to play them, but they all play very differently from what I saw everybody else playing. But who's not going to like this game? Well, for starters, anybody who likes games that have very high player interaction are not going to like this game, because there is a little bit of player interaction where if I build a train on this tile and you also build a train on this tile, the only real interaction that we have, unless you're Gesselheim, is if you get to deliver that good before I do, you could screw me out of some goods. And that's really the biggest flaw that I saw is there is very light player interaction. Some people, I'm a person who likes a lot of player interaction. I don't like playing a solitaire multiplayer game that often, which is funny because I love deck builders, but in a game similar to this where you're putting things out on a map, I like to be able to interact, maybe screw you over, maybe steal some stuff from you, but in a more direct way. So anybody who wants a lot of player interaction, this game may not have what you're looking for. Other than that, that's really the only big flaw that I can really see with the game. The only other flaw that I would say is the special characters that you can get throughout the course of the game. They are a first come first serve basis, and some of them are just clearly better than others, and you could wind up getting screwed if you were late to the party basically and be forced to take just one of the subpar ones, and it's going to be really hard for you to try to catch up. But in my opinion, that's part of the game, because as long as you go in knowing that, it gives you incentive to try to get those before anybody else. Get the first pick, get that good character. So in my opinion, it's not necessarily so much of a flaw as part of the mechanics of the game. However, another flaw that some people may or may not like is there's not much of a catch-up mechanic in this game. If you're constantly getting screwed out of areas, or maybe you accidentally placed in the wrong spot, which I'll get to in a little more in just a second, but if, maybe you placed in the wrong spot, or maybe whatever, you start falling behind, and you can clearly see you're falling behind. There's not many ways, and by many I don't think there's any, for you to catch up. If you're losing, you're probably gonna keep losing. With that said, the second game I played, I did place in a very, very poor spot, and I wound up placing second, almost winning, because I was able to bring it back from the fringe. But just know that there's very, very little in terms of a catch-up mechanic. Outside of that, this game is fantastic. As long as you go in understanding, of course, it's not Ticket to Ride. It's a very different game from Ticket to Ride. But the game is fantastic. The artwork is fantastic. The overall flow of the game is really, really nice. And it's a fairly simple game in terms, there's some little nuanced rules, and there's a lot of symbols as well, which may turn some people off, but those you can just refer to the rule book. Hopefully they have a back page, so if you're listening to this level 99, put a nice quick reference guide on the back of your book, just so that way you don't have to keep flipping through the rule book. But really, those are really the only flaws of the game. Other than that, the game is fantastic. It's super fluid, very light, very easy, but a lot of strategy that's going to come back and bite you later. Maybe you placed a train here, and then you're looking at the board a little bit later going, oh crap, if I would have put it here instead of there a couple turns ago, I would have been able to get such and such points, or been able to do this, or whatever. But anyways, this is starting to turn into a rant. The game is fantastic. I highly, highly recommend it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you guys next time in the quarantine.